Hey folks, John Zombro here with the Lifetime Athlete, and thanks for joining me today for this video, which is the Guide to Backcountry Hunting Clothing Systems for early and late seasons. When I do these shows, I try to offer up a physical therapist perspective on the topic. So I'm always looking at things like biomechanics and ergonomics and even wilderness medicine. And hopefully some of that will trickle in through today's video. I should also say that the gear I'm surrounded by is all gear that I've purchased myself. I do not have any sponsorships or affiliations. And so these won't be in-depth gear reviews, although I will comment on the performance that I've gotten out of the clothing systems that I am recommending and that I'm currently using. I'm also going to try to bring my experience into this video today, having 50 years as a hunter and 40 years working in human performance. Here at the Lifetime Athlete, we value making people hard to kill on the playing field and in the game of life, and we also appreciate the hunter as the original athlete, and history proves this without argument. In fact, I've really enjoyed becoming known as the hunter's physical therapist, and the backcountry hunting community has been extremely supportive of the work that I'm doing. So thank you very much again. There are so many choices that I'm going to go over for clothing, and this only represents what I have out here today, and you're going to get some of my opinions. Many of the brands are represented, Kuiu, Sitka. I don't think I have anything here from Stone Glacier or First Light, but they are excellent, plus a wide variety of other items. Some are high-end, and some are very inexpensive items, which you can find in many big box stores or online. One of the big things we think about when we're talking about our clothing for the backcountry, as opposed to the front country, where we might just be going a mile or two here and there, different applications. I think you can get away with some things. But when you're in the backcountry, we have to be so concerned about the absolute highest quality function in our clothing, durability, reliability, comfort, and all those things give us confidence. Confidence that we know we can be safe and also be effective without having to worry about all sorts of things falling apart or going wrong. So let's get right into early season. So for me, in my area, which is the Northern Rockies, early season will run from late August into probably mid-October most of the time. And more of that hunting historically for me has been in archery as opposed to using firearms, but there are some exceptions to that. Let's see, if I do this in an order which will be consistent, that's going to be my big challenge. So thanks for bearing with me. Hope I get it right. I'm going to start off with synthetic boxer briefs. These are an Under Armour product, and I actually like the synthetic more in the early season because it does wick a little faster and dry more quickly. Very thin, very light. And as far as my base layer up top goes, a thin polyester long sleeve tee is usually my choice. This one's from Ecstatic, but again, I think like most of us, we probably have a closet full of things like this. Very good though, very light and breathable, fast drying, fast wicking. It's really important for me because I can be in such temperature changes or such extremes. It could be anywhere from literally 90 degrees to 30, let's say, in most cases, in the very early season. Okay, then moving along, I think the next thing I'll talk about is the pants, and I believe you're going to find this one interesting. So I'll generally prefer to wear just a lightweight, hunting pant. The newer models that have basically the nylon or polyester with spandex. They're quite nice. And this is a Kuiu pant, the Tiburon or Tiburon, however you pronounce it. This has been a good pant. I like it's got an athletic cut. The pockets are placed well. Has some zippers. A great pant. And then likewise, for years I've used the Sitka Mountain Ascent. Or not, I think this is just the Sitka Ascent pant. Pardon me for that, but really good. I like some features of their design. I think it's a great pant. But my latest thing that I've been into is this absolute greatest bargain that I've ever found in an outdoor pant. And I happened to be cruising through my local Costco and came across these, and they were originally $19.99, but they were blowing them out for $14.99. This is the weatherproof vintage pant. Again, it's available from Costco. And literally, it's almost the same as these pants, which definitely retail for quite a bit more. And the one, they don't have cargo pockets, which kind of is a strike against them. But again, at the $15 mark, it's not a big deal. And it would have been a deal breaker if they didn't have a zippered pocket, but they do have a zipper here on the right side pocket where I like to store a pocket knife. And in fact, if you've seen my video on knives for backcountry hunting, you'll know why I prefer that. But anyway, that's what I'll wear for a pant. Again, I like the light ones. They do dry super fast, and I'm always typically wearing something like this in the early season. The top that I like to wear over my synthetic base layer is a lightweight fleece hoodie, and I have several of these. This one's a Kuiu. It's the Peloton 200 zip tee hoodie. I like a hood on a shirt because it gives you that versatility, whether you need some warmth or protection from wind or weather, and being able to zip it up around the face is really nice. So this is certainly a good product. Camo, that's probably worth talking about. I mean, still in the archery season, I'm going to be using mostly camouflage, although I'm finding myself using more and more solids, and I'm okay with mixing the patterns as well. I mean, maybe it's a fashion concern if you're walking into your local coffee shop, but otherwise not a big deal. Then as we move along, I should talk about socks. And what I like to do in the early season is essentially just run the same type of sock all the time. It's a mid-weight sock, merino wool blend, and it goes mid-calf. This one is from Timberland. This is a Fox River. All good. And the Darn Tough socks are very popular these days. I believe I have a pair of those that are currently in the laundry. But nonetheless, it's going to be a mid-weight, mid-calf merino sock. Now, working further through the outfit, I like to have a ball cap. Usually I try to take the ones out in the field that are made of synthetic instead of the ones that are primarily cotton, just because, again, they're going to dry faster and not have the issues that cotton tends to have if it does get wet. So I'm always rocking the ball cap. And then if it's early and it's hot and a lot of sunshine, I'll use a sun hat. Just the basic style like this. This one, actually, it's from Sportsman's Warehouse. I've had it for years, but it gets the job done and helps to protect me a little bit more from the sun when that's indicated. I will also use a neck gaiter, and sometimes there might be a camouflage face mask, but the neck gaiter is nice because you can wear it as a neck gaiter, as a buff, different ways. What I like to do is I'll rinse it out in a creek and wring it out and have it be wet if that's indicated. Just don't do that in an elk wallow. I'm joking. Thank you. Oh, I heard the applause from around the world. So yeah, and then another thing before I move on, I just noticed is I want to talk about belts. In the early season, I do like a synthetic belt, just because there's usually so much sweating and the belt will dry out or just not get that wet like a leather belt will. But one of the things with these types of belts, like the one I'm wearing, these buckles are really not backcountry worthy. They're just, they're going to break. And so I'll usually replace these with something that's available at any gear store. But this is Bomber, rock solid. It's never going to break. And you definitely don't want to be without your belt when you're out there. Looks like next up is going to be gloves. And in the early season, I just take a thin glove. That's all I take. This happens to be a camo pair. These are a King's product, but something light just to give you a little bit of protection for the hands. They aren't quite as good around camp because they're not as durable. So sometimes I'll just use a simple product like this. This is a kind of a knockoff version of a mechanic's glove, one of the lighter styles, and so these are equally effective trying not to lose my organization here, but I also take a beanie along. Sometimes this is just for sleeping, but I can put this over the ball cap or as an extra layer over a hood if I need that for weather or for temperature. Then as I'm going into like my next layer, in the early season, I like a vest. And this is a Kuiu Guide vest. It's nice because it's super light, first of all, and fairly low bulk, but it has an outer surface that's very weather resistant, especially for the wind on your torso. It's nice, and I really find a lot of times that that's just wearing the vest along with the hoodie, that gets me through the day, and if there's not a lot of weather, that's all I'm doing. But in the evenings, or if it's cold, or if I'm out taking a nap in the woods even, the puffy is great. Now in the early season, I'll usually go for a synthetic puffy. This one is from Browning, and I think I've had this for a number of years. Works great. And why I go with synthetic in the early season is in my neck of the woods, if we're going to get rain, that's when we're going to get rain. Usually in the later season, things get colder. It's almost always going to be snow if there's precipitation. Let me try that a third time. There's almost always going to be snow if there's precipitation. So I like the synthetic, even though it's not quite as warm as down and it won't pack down quite as small. If it does get wet, it's not a big deal. It still provides some insulation value and it dries quickly. What I'll do with this one is I'll usually just stuff it into its own pocket and then get that packed down fairly tightly within the pack. Don't worry about protecting it like I do down, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, and then two final things. I have used this Sitka Stormfront rain jacket for quite a while. Over a decade, I'm sure. It's probably been longer than that, but it's been a great coat. It's never let me down. It is a little bulky. It doesn't breathe too well, but it's extremely weatherproof. I think they've changed the model now, but this jacket has just been fantastic, so I never go without it. And it's great in the early season because it's got that soft outer cover, so I can kind of wear it as a jacket. It doesn't feel like I'm wearing a raincoat when I want to do that. So there's that. And then the other thing I would mention is I typically don't run gaiters in the early season. Again, the places I hunt, I don't seem to need the gaiters. For me, they tend to be overkill and they're hot. So what I will pack is a really small, I've got several of these lightweight pair of rain pants. Obviously, in rainy conditions, they are good, but a lot of times in the wet grass, this works better even than a gaiter does for me. So that's my recommendation. These are red ledge pants. Again, these aren't necessarily high tech at all, but they certainly have served well and continue to do so. So that's kind of what I use for the early season. These are, everything here is relatively lightweight. It's relatively simple, and literally the only extra thing I'll take in my pack is perhaps an extra pair of socks. And so I think that might have been why I set up with two pairs in my display here. But that's everything for early season. Now, when I move to the later season, and that transition mostly depends upon the weather more than anything else, I'll have a few other considerations because I'm probably going to be looking at colder temperatures by a significant degree and also snow in all probability on the ground and to varying depths. And so that's where a lot of my stuff for the late season will change. So right away, I'm going to go with merino against the skin. So I've got a boxer brief merino wool. This one, it's had so much wear, the manufacturer's name is worn off, so I can't tell you who made this, but I'm guessing that it's similar to this shirt, which is a smart wool. And again, I'll just wear that long sleeve tee. I like the merino because probably I'm not sweating as much in the later season. It's a little warmer. It has a nicer feel next to the skin than does polyester. And it also tends to not retain as much odor. Those are the big benefits. of the merino for me. Just trying to see if I'm staying in a similar order to last time. Yeah, so now I'll talk about the pants. And so with the pants, again, I like the major brands, and I've used most of the ones that are out there. I think this might be my favorite pant for the later season. This actually used to be called the Sitka 90% pant, and so it's the same typical outer fabric that you're familiar with a lot of the products. It has a very thin fleece lining in it. This particular pant, I believe they've changed it to go to the mountain pant, which has the removable knee pad option, but I like this. It's really good. And what I used to do is I used to pack merino bottoms or long johns, and I never found that the comfort of walking around in those was as good as just wearing a pant that was a little heavier. The long johns are nice for sleeping, but a lot of times I would find myself in the middle of the day wanting to take them off or put them on, and it was a hassle. So I just wear the single pair of pants. Other pants that I've used and will continue to use this year include this one. This is the Kuiu Talus pant, and it's it's got the double seat. It's got integrated knee pads, and the lowers are double fabric or reinforced. It's a great pant. Again, a lot of these products are very similar. If I'm going to be someplace where maybe it's a bit rockier, I think I might be on my knees a bit more, I'm going to use these. And they've served very well for that purpose. But kind of taking it back to the old school, these were a great pair of pants, and I'll still use them this year. This is the Cabela's Alaskan Guide model. It's a polyester fleece, double seat, double knees, good pocket configuration. Light, warm. Doesn't have quite the stretch of the more modern pants, but again, this was a great product, and I'd still purchase it today. So that's what I do with pants. Now, as I get into the upper body, I've got that merino, and I know somewhere buried in here is another shirt. So I always like two shirts, just like I had two shirts in the early season. I'm going to go two shirts in the later season. So I'll use another hoodie, and it could be varying materials. It could be light to medium. The grid fleeces are nice. This one's actually from Patagonia. I like the feature of how the neck zip works on this one. It gives you a lot of face coverage, and that's really, really helpful in the later season when you're out there in the wind, especially. The more you can seal around the neck and the head, you're going to minimize your heat loss and maximize your comfort. So I guess that's something that's really important to me. I'll also, as I see it laying here, I'll just go back to a leather belt in the off season. Or excuse me, not the off season, but in the later season, because I just prefer the leather belt. I like the way it feels and fits. And if you happen to be carrying anything extra on your belt, like a sidearm, for example, the leather belts are a bit better for that purpose, in my opinion. Then what I'll do up top is I'll go to basically, I guess the term these days is to say that it's active insulation. And this is super light, easily compressed, easily packed jacket from Marmot. It's a simple jacket, and it's got a very light fleece liner, nylon outside. It's great. I'll rarely take it off when I'm wearing these things in the later season. It's just great. I can ventilate quite easily. A little bit of weather protection, especially from the wind, and breathes well, dries well. So I love that, and that's pretty much my setup going around that late October through November into December time period. On the socks, I will stick with mid-weight merino, but I'll usually go to full length over the calf. And again, this pair is from Schnee's, but I found any of these to be quite serviceable. It's good to spend a little bit of money on sock though and get one that will last and not wear through as quickly. You can tell that on some of the budget brands. Then, as we move along, I think we're ready to talk about these items. And so I'm still rocking the ball cap, like the synthetic. This one actually has the ear flaps as an extra added bonus if you like that. It's fine. I've got some others, but this was the one that I got for today's show. Comes in handy. I will also carry, usually these days, this is from Kuyu. It's a balaclava, and I can wear it, again, I can wear it as a neck gaiter or even roll it up as a hat, a couple different ways, but it just gives you that extra little bit of coverage, even when you have hoods, and I do prefer hoods on most of my shirts and coats. For the hands, I'm going to still stick with lighter gloves. So I'm not really going to a true mid-weight glove. I'm going to go to a lightweight glove. This is an old glove from Remington, believe it or not, but it's got box stitching on the fingers. I like that. Got just enough grip, enough water repellency, great for that time of year. And a lot of times I will not remove this glove for shooting because it's, again, very nimble fingered and thin, and I do like that. So I will take a pair of liners along. These just happen to be some old Polypro liners. There's other types that are available, but these will work great to extend this glove for most of the circumstances. And then when the times get really serious and I want to just keep my hands warm, and if it's really cold, I'm going to use mittens. These mittens are such that I can put them over the gloves if I want, one or both, or just wear this with the bare hand in it. And these are from a company called Heat, and they're, again, not super high tech. I do have down mittens, but again, if I'm going to be out doing a lot of things and exposed to, say, snow and moisture, I found that the synthetics work a little better for me because I end up not worrying when I do get them wet, and that does happen. Now, having said all that, I would say that in the late season, I'm going to rock the down puffy every time. And I'm also going to keep it in a stuff sack because that is going to help protect it, both to keep it dry and keep it from having punctures. And as I'm pulling this out, this is the Kuyu Super Down Pro, and I can pack this down to about twice the size. I stuck it in here for the video, but it's great. It has an ample hood again, which I prefer, and excellent loft. And I'll oftentimes use this when sleeping as a sleeping bag extender. It's just super comfortable to have for that. But when you're up there on those ridge tops or mountain tops glassing, this is the thing to have. Just a couple more items here as I go along. I'm going to say that I also like to use gaiters in the later season, and I've tried a lot of brands, including some from Outdoor Research, Kenetrek, and others. I actually like these Kuyu gaiters the best of all. They've got a fabric which is, it almost feels like neoprene, but it's tougher, and it's got a little bit of stretch, but it's a really snug fit. And so then when you're, let's say, wearing your high-end boots, and those boots cost in excess of $400, and actually if you take a look at the video I have on boots and footwear for backcountry hunting, you'll hear a bit more about that. But these will fit so snugly that I can dance through a lot of creeks and not have water getting in if I move quickly, and certainly don't risk waterlogging the boots. And always valuable in the snow. When your pant legs get wet or your socks get wet, you can get that wicking and start to end up wet inside your shoe. The gaiters really help to prevent that. So a big advocate for gaiters in the late season. Now this brings up a great topic, and it's the puffy pant, or the absence of the puffy pant in this video. I'm not against puffy pants at all. I have owned some. They are great. They're about the lightest and warmest thing to cover your lower half that you can get, but they also tend to turn into giant artworks of duct tape over time, and that's particularly true for me. You have to be very disciplined when you're wearing puffies to remember, be careful where you sit down, don't hike in them, or you're going to end up snagging and tearing them, which has been my experience, which is why I've kind of gone over the last couple of years to a pant like this. This is the Kuyu Kenai pant, and it's not quite as warm as a puffy pant, but close. Almost as light, almost as packable. And what I like about this, it's got the full zips. I can throw this on and off at any point, and I can hike in it some if I want to until I get warm. And for me, just a slightly better, more durable choice. And you may be actually better at taking care of your equipment than me, and you don't need to go this way. But this has been very good for me. But the last thing here on the video that I'd like to show you is my outer coat, if and when I need it. And so this is a Kuiu guide jacket. It's actually a guide soft shell. And a lot of people tend to poo-poo soft shells, and I can see where. However, this is a very weather-resistant type of soft shell, and I'm wearing it in the late season where 95% of the time it's going to be snow that I'm encountering, if I'm encountering precipitation. So that's kind of how I view this. And this, if I pack this down tight enough, it doesn't take up too much space, but I really like the versatility that it offers me. In high winds, if it's not too warm, I might just run the guide jacket, but if it's cold enough, the down might go underneath that. And so maybe here's a pro tip. The outer shell that I wear in the late season, I size it up a size. So I normally wear a large. That's an extra large, and probably for two reasons. One, I can get more layers under it, such as the down coat, but also when you're wearing your backpack, it tends to not ride up around the hip belt in particular. So that's the gear that I use in terms of clothing systems for early and late season. Maybe you have some different choices, and I'd love to hear about that. And by the way, I hope I didn't forget to mention anything that's been on my list. Please leave me a comment or a question if you felt that I did, or you have something else you'd like me to address, and I'll be sure to get back to you on that. Thanks for being with me today.